with that, welcome guys to the LWIA 23 Planning and Oversight Committee meeting on March 16th at 4:30 p.m. at the Cluthe Center and on Zoom. Thank you guys for joining. Quick housekeeping. We are recorded and these microphones and cameras are sensitive, so just beware if you rustle your papers too much or flail your hands, it will zoom in on you. And I hope you do so that it will unzoom from my face. But this will be matter of public record posted on to YouTube. So just be conscious of that. And go ahead, call the meeting to order when you are ready.
I am ready. Good evening. Let's do a roll call, see who's here.
Okay, Casey Burkholzer, present. Kevin Busher,
present.
Mike Conrad,
Present.
Julie Obermark, Chris Stroll,
She'll be back.
Kim Taylor,
Here.
Carol Tracy,
Here.
Jeff Boyd,
Present.
and Connie Waldrop. We have a quorum.
Fantastic. Review and approval of the December 8th minutes. They were part of the packet. Is there any questions about them or anybody have any statements? If not, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Okay. Conflict of interest disclosure. Anyone have a conflict of interest based on what we see in the agenda? I don't hear of any conflicts. So Debbie, let's go ahead and go to the grant recipient fiscal agent reports.
All right, we will start with the statement of expenditures. The first page is just the WIA staff portion. As you can see, we're at 60.5%, and for January, 7 out of the 12 months is 58.3%. So we're right in that ballpark. So, and it will keep getting better and better just because we had the administrative expense of 50,000 during the beginning months. So it will keep chipping away at that. So nothing else really is greatly out of line. Is there any questions on anything that you can see? Okay, and the next page is just a statement of expenditures for the apprenticeship grant. We are at 54.3% of that total grant. It technically ends on June 30th, but we are actually requesting to possibly move it out through August 31st. We would not be asking for additional money. It's just an extra 2 months to try and get that spent. So we are waiting back from DCO on that.
Is this a grant that you'll get every year? Or is this just a one-time grant?
Right now, it's just one time.
There will likely be another cycle for this type of grant, but it will, from what I understand, it's going to look different than it does now. So there'll be more money, but it will be different kind of money, I guess.
And as you can see from that, the fringe benefits were at 84.5% of that amount. Part of the modification, in addition to asking for the 2 additional months, we were actually moving money around to up the fringe benefits. So we won't be over in that whenever it gets all said and done. So like I said, no additional money. It's just a matter of moving around what we were originally approved for. So no questions on that page. Then the next is the accounts payable report. A lot of the typical month-to-month sort of items. We did have a couple of incumbent worker trainings, Big 3 Precision and Lester Buildings. Those were both in the last few months. And then we had some travel items, but everything else is pretty well same old, same old. Any questions on any of those items? Hearing none, we will move to the key metrics. this is actually looking better than it has in the past. The dislocated worker, the not meeting, those two will actually very shortly, probably I don't know if it'll be February, but at least March, that will flip over to meeting because we sent in a modification that was moving adult money or dislocated worker money over to adult. So once that gets modified, then we will be meeting that for the dislocated worker. So, and that's in its final phases. I think we sent in the last signature that we need for that. So it's basically in DCO's final stages of getting that modification done. So down at the bottom, youth in school, not more than 50%. We did end up failing for the 21 grant. We knew that that was coming just because at the time we were just putting any youth on that we could. So, and it's probably going to happen that way again for the 22 grant, just because it's 2 years a lot of times. And so even if you have it that first year, it's going to carry over to the next year with the participants that you have. So we have that on the horizon, but we'll just see how close we get to the 50% mark. For the minimum 20% work experience, we did end up meeting that for the 21 grant. 22, right now it's at 4.7. Just looking at the numbers, we don't think we will need that for the 22 grant, but we're going to see how close we get to that whenever it's all said and done. So any questions on that report?
With us not meeting the youth, what's going to be the short-term and long-term effects of that?
I mean, the state hasn't even really said anything since these numbers have been turned in. They've said that we might get technical assistance, but I mean, I don't know if there will be anything beyond that. So
Before we pursued the strategy of just spending youth money
Mhm.
on any youth, we did check with Brian Ellis, our district regional manager. He said, to his knowledge, probably technical assistance. But at that point, to them, it was more important to spend the money and to get youth enrolled than to balance out as a youth in school versus out of school. So I do anticipate there will be maybe a finding on an audit or monitoring, or some sort of technical assistance that will come through, but I do not feel like it will be an intense technical assistance. I think we're in the same situation as a lot of other areas. I also think we're in a better situation than even a few areas out there. So there is still currently the waiver for the 50%. And there is a lot of push for the WIA reauthorization at the federal level to take out the wording and the separation of youth in school versus out of school. So my hope is that we are on this path of just understanding we need to help the youth that need it, want it, and are available. And we will continue our efforts to reach those who need it most, who may be out of school, but to turn away youth that are in school just because we need to meet a ratio. Hopefully that type of thinking is on its way out. We'll be in a better position. So DCO was made aware and we're prepared for whatever it is that happens.
Okay.
no other questions on that. We'll go to the training versus overhead. The very first page, as you can see, we're at 73.3% and we're required for 50%. So we are well over that amount. And then the second page is just our overall funding, and we easily have 66.5%. So we're doing well on that statistic. Next page is the MOU invoices. We billed these out end of November. And as you can see, we've received many of them. And we've actually just in the last week received 2 more. So we are actually down to, looks like just 3 of them. So hopefully we'll receive a couple of them anytime now. I know with IDES, that one does happen later. So we know that going into it, so we just have a few outstanding at this point. Any questions on that one? Okay, the next is our incumbent worker training projects that we've got going on this fiscal year. As you can see, we have obligated over 110,000 so far. So we've got quite a few projects that have been completed and several more that are in process, so that's definitely been a good year for it. And I think with the CDL, I think there's a lot of potential for that too. So we could be seeing even more of those come up in the future. Any questions on that one? Okay. And just a few things that I wanted to point out. DCO annual monitoring. There have been no set dates yet, but it should be happening in May. That's whenever they had their kickoff back in the fall, they anticipated our area being done in May. So we should receive probably, I don't know if in March, but in April, we'll definitely find out when for sure their suggested dates are. So the grant modifications, I did mention a little bit of that earlier. We modified for the formula grant. Back in November, the 21 grant, we actually moved 225,000 from dislocated worker to adult. And then for the 22 grant, we just submitted 400,000 from dislocated worker to adult. SEPS just has that much more use of it on the adult side versus the dislocated workers. So, and it's pretty well spent as it is. So, but like I said, that modification is almost done by the state. We're just waiting to get the final official paperwork on it. So, and then the apprenticeship grant where we sent in for moving the money for the fringes and for extending it by the 2 months. So, and then the last thing, the PY23 budget process. I think Jamie just heard from DCO earlier this week. They have no indication on what next year's numbers will be. And so we probably won't be starting the process until late April or May. So it's just sort of a waiting game to find out what our allocations might be, to sort of go from there. So, but that will be coming up in the next couple months. So any questions on any of the reports?
If there's no questions, can I get a motion to approve? Okay, and a second, please.
A second.
And I need a roll call vote, please.
Casey Burkholder? Yes. Kevin Busher?
Yes.
Mike Conrad?
Yes.
Chris Stroll?
Yes.
Kim Taylor?
Yes.
Carol Tracy?
Yes.
Jeff Boyd?
Yes.
Okay.
Current performance report, Lori?
Looking at our performance for the adult and dislocated workers, we are either meeting or exceeding all measures for those two. On the youth side, we are exceeding all of them except the youth credential attainment rate. And we only need one more youth to meet the measure. We need 3 to exceed the measure. And we've identified 8 of our students who will be graduating in May. So I anticipate that status to change from a fail to an exceed on that. So, but at this point, it does show an overall fail, and that's just due to that one measure. But I think by the end of May, beginning of June, our next meeting, that we will see that we'll be meeting all of those measures and we'll be in good shape.
That was good news, so it was a little song to dance
Yes.
to celebrate.
The bells are ringing.
Good timing, Elaine.
If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Let's go to the program fiscal monitoring report. Tony?
We finished program monitoring last month. Seth didn't have any findings. Lori and I and Kristen went over some things. I made some notes, had some questions, but nothing escalated to a finding. Everybody's eligible. They had maybe one documentation thing that they fixed it. And then one question, my question was, why did we do this? It's not against anybody's rules. It was just I don't know, kind of a bad decision in my opinion, but it was, but nothing, no findings. So we'll just leave it at that. They're great at what they do, and their file organization is incredible. Everything's in the same spot. I mean, I can get through a file in a minute and a half because everything is, the next page is going to be this, next page is going to be this, and everyone's exactly the same. So they're awesome at what they do, and hope we never lose them. And if we lose them, it's probably going to lose me. So that being said, no findings with them. We do have fiscal monitoring slated for April 24. Is that right? April 25th. Yeah, that week anyway. So Debbie and I are going to be down there probably Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Most of the time we can get through within 2.5, 3 days. So, and then as Debbie said earlier, then DCO comes in, does kind of the same thing in May. So that's what we got for steps.
Great. Can I get a motion to approve Tony's
Motion.
report? And I will second that. I need a roll call vote, please.
We need roll call for that, or did I
No,
just?
you
Okay.
just put that on there. You don't really need a roll call. The only thing we need a roll call for is for financial matters.
Okay, I just saw it. So
Yeah,
I
I saw
copied
that too earlier. I'm like, Debbie, why'd you do that? It's Debbie's
Wrong.
fault.
Okay,
Yeah, it is.
okay, all those, now you got me completely lost.
See?
All those approved?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Board and bylaw modifications. Tony?
Okay, so we talked about this last board meeting and several youth committee meetings. So the only, we have come to the conclusion that we're gonna leave the youth committee as a standing committee with some additional clauses, I guess, in our bylaws. So they're gonna be a standing committee. The only thing that's gonna be different from the other committees is we don't have to have 51% board members on that committee. We're gonna try to recruit people that deal with youth on a daily basis that have an interest in it, instead of just getting business-led people that don't have not gonna say interest, but the everyday interactions with youth. So, and I got the wording straight out of the law from Laura Dom at DCO, and that's what she suggested we do, but it needs to come to this committee because it's the policy committee, and then it's gonna go to the board on Monday for approval, and then we will submit these new bylaws to DCO probably with the MOU in May. So, but the changes in the bylaws were sent out in your packet. They're highlighted in yellow. So we just needed to get that verbiage approved, I suppose.
And I just want to add, the youth committee we met just about 3 or 4 weeks ago, probably, to kind of talk about this a little more. You know, we went back and forth on, do we still have a standing committee? Do we have it as an ad hoc committee? And we know that there are youth in the community that we need to be serving. And we feel like the best way that we're able to do that is to be able to get people around the table that do serve youth. Because the environment of education has changed, but our youth are also, some of their needs have changed and some of their barriers have changed. And if we don't have people sitting around the table to help us figure out what that looks like, we're not going to be able to serve them the best way that we can. So that's one of the reasons. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but that is really one of the reasons why we want to keep the youth committee as a standing committee. So
I would also like to add that the reason why we wanted to change the composition of the youth committee and not have it be 51% board members is this is a little prelude into what the board training is going to be on Monday. So you guys get a little sneak peek. our board, the overall mission of our board is to serve as a convener of all workforce partners. We get really wrapped up in Title I because that's what we do. But we also need to think about all of the other partners at the table and how we can engage everyone across the board, across the region, not just our board. So if we have a youth committee that is 51% board members that are representing business, hopefully, but a lot will be Title I focused, then we're missing the point of really supporting each other and all of our other stakeholders and partners across the region. So if we're able to have a little more flexibility with the composition of the committee, then we can have more diversity as far as who's at the table, what programs, what agencies and organizations are represented, and we will be able to collaborate better, still get the referrals and everything that we need for Title I, but also help out those partners throughout the region with their services as well, and ensuring that we're not being duplicative and that we're catching gaps in any service or support that our residents need. So it is more of kind of shifting that focus from we're here for Title I, how do you guys get us referrals? How do we refer people to you, to more of what can we do collaboratively? What trends are we seeing? What new things are happening? What's a new challenge that's popping up? And how can we address it as a group? How can we all come together to leverage our resources to support everyone? That's what we're going to talk about more on Monday too.
I move we approve the board bylaw modifications that Tony presented.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All those, do we need a roll call on this? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Fantastic. Adult Education Area Planning Committee, Jamie?
Yes, so in your packet, you should have received three little packets, one from each of the adult ed providers in our region. So that's Lakeland, Kaskaskia, and IECC. Each of those adult ed entities have their own area planning council where they meet annually, maybe more often than that even, and come up with a plan of how they are going to work with local partners and serve their students. So I'm sure you all took the time to read through these very thoroughly, but if you look at them, they feed in very closely to our regional plan. So this is a part of how adult ed, one of our partners, is aligning with WIOA. Each one of these they're doing what they are supposed to do. There's nothing of concern in here to me. I would like to hear if anyone is concerned or has any suggestions for any of them, but honestly, they are all doing what they are supposed to be doing and they have good plans. And even Lakeland College, their adult ed program invites us to the table for their APC meetings every 6 months, twice a year. So that again goes to breaking down those silos. How are we all working together collaboratively? And this is just another way to prove that.
Thank you, Jamie. Is there any other business? I do not hear of any. Date and time of next meeting. Is it June 22nd?
June 8th.
Okay, we moved it up a week instead of
Yes.
back a week. Okay. 4:30 with location to be determined.
Hopefully Seth's office at that point, otherwise here, so.
To be
No
determined.
flooding, right?
Started second round of drywall today.
Did it flood again?
Yeah.
Christmas.
Had a fright.
We had a water line right at Christmas. 24,000 gallon of water in our building.
Went for a swim, it sounds like.
Did you negotiate a rate with the city for the water then? Is that?
Well, what they had said was they only charge us double our bill from the previous month. A pretty good deal for us.
If you could have used the water.
Yeah.
Public comment? Then I need a motion to adjourn. And a second, please.
Second.
Fantastic. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for those who are joining remotely. I am logging off.
What's that?
Thank you. Thank you. See you Monday night.
See
We've
you
done it
Monday, Jeff.
faster than this, haven't we?